I'm Duran.
And I'm Roniel.
Today's episode is going to be the first in a series of what it's like. And this series is centered around what it is like to do some job, be in some position, have a certain job title. And the whole goal is to help you, the audience, understand what it's like to be that person. Now, this isn't a day in the life of. Those are hokey, and they tend to only ever talk about a tiny sliver of the work, and oftentimes only ever in a positive way. Our goal in the series is actually to discuss both the positives and negatives that we've experienced in that realm. And of course, I should have, let me preface this entire discussion with this is obviously based on our set of experiences, as limited as they may be. It's not intended to besmirch anyone, any profession, anything of that nature. The goal, again, is just to help maybe guide you and help you see some of the industry and find a home that is right for you.
And also pitfalls. So if you don't know, like there's a lot of things that I was like, oh, I want to do this. Like I wanted to do robotics. That was my passion. And there was no money in it. And there was also some other pitfalls. So to go into it and not understand and not know somebody who've actually been into it to give me that insight, that would have been a horrible thing for me. So this is what we're trying to do is give you some insight on what I went through,
Yeah.
the good and the bad, and then you can kind of make your decision on what.
Right. So to start it off, we have Roniel talking about what it's like to be an engineering technician.
Yeah. Let me start off by saying it sucked, and nothing to the guys that do technician work. I think a lot of them are very smart, highly smart. Some of them can be an engineer, which is why I wanted to discuss a little bit about what it's like being an engineering technician and why you should go the other route. To me, there's a separate, and I'm going to start with this by saying the difference between engineering technology and engineering. And engineering technology is supposed to be the faster route of getting your hands-on experience, right? If you've ever done engineering, and I've done some engineering courses as well, it's a lot of theory, right? So your engineering technologist or technology program takes a little bit of theory, but more practical knowledge. So mainly when I did the engineering technology course and got my degree in it, basically it was maybe like, I'm going to say 20% theory, and the rest of it was like all, hands on 80%. So it's like an 80-20. So we did a lot of practical knowledge, and it was great. Don't get me wrong. It was good. But the problem was the less theory you knew, the worst off you were, in my opinion. When I got more theory as I went to a 4-year traditional college, I started to understand some of the loopholes that I was missing or those holes that I didn't understand. So, yes, I did get a lot of practical knowledge. I did learn almost the same thing that that an engineer would, but the theory behind some of these things were kind of off. That there were missing different stuff because we didn't go thoroughly through it. We kind of just glanced over it for that particular assignment. However, so that's just something to note when it comes to getting into engineering technology. Like I said, the stuff are similar, but the theory is the difference between it. And then as an engineer versus a technician, you design things, right? And more likely, if you only get an associate degree, and they say if you get a bachelor degree, you should be able to design things as well because you're supposed to be an engineer there. But I still think it's different. You won't be able to design things as good as an engineer unless you have that hands-on experience working with engineers. I think it's still just a difference between it. Are you more practical than most engineers? From what I've seen, some of the guys who get in, like come out of the engineering technology realm, they're a lot more hands-on than the people coming out of the engineering schools. Not saying that they can't be both, but again, when you go to a 4-year college that's focused on building you and teaching you to learn, you have to learn all of those skills outside. They don't do just all of the stuff practically inside of the environment. Most schools may, but a lot of it, I noticed that you had to do a lot of it outside, which is why I said they teach you how to learn. And technical college, you get more of the practical hands-on. We're doing more lab time than anything. So you're learning how to do all of those things there. So you can take some of that outside, but a lot of it's going to be lab time anyway. So you're going to learn it in the lab. So it's your choice, but I'm going to tell you guys, go the engineering route. If you really want to do both, then they have it now where it's a mixture. So you can find colleges that do an engineering course, and then you can still do engineering technology as well, but it will be a longer spanned out, course or project. By the time you graduate, it'll probably be in 10 years. So that's up to you. So when I got my first job after I got out of school, I became an engineering technician. So what's the difference between a technician and an engineering technician? There's really no difference. To me, I think the engineering technician works a little more closely with the engineers. So you can you're like that middle ground before you become an engineer. So the technician is the first level, and then you have your level 1, 2, 3, and whatever. But once you become an engineering technician, it's supposed to be that middle ground between an engineer and a technician. I think it's a stupid name, by the way. You're just a technician, but you are basically working closely with engineers, and you can kind of do what the engineers do and be a technician as well. You're just not an engineer. And you don't have the certificate or credentials to say you're an engineer, because you do have to get certs to become an engineer in certain places as well.
Did you ever find that the communication between the engineers and the engineering technicians was strained, like there was any sort of hierarchy in their minds between yourself and them, as in, oh, well, we the engineers are better than the engineering technicians?
Yes, it's the same way with the programmers. So if you're a programmer versus a developer, the same way with the technician versus the engineer. We were always looked down on because engineers were the high level. They were the cream of the crop, and they knew how to design things. So really, the engineers would design a circuit board, and they would pass it down to us, and then we would take that circuit board and we would build it.
Yeah.
And then make sure that it worked like it was supposed to. And if it didn't, then we would figure out why it didn't work, and then would go back to the drawing board, they redesign it and re-put it together and make sure it works as they designed it. Same way, if you were a programmer, you program something, you get it from an software engineer, they design it, give it to you, and then you program those functionalities, right? So that was the same idea, and we were looked like, if you ask me, the technicians were peon, but they were important, because a lot of the times in the companies, yes, they said engineers could design, but engineers did not get their hands dirty. They literally were sitting on their flow graph or their program that they were using, designing the circuits, and then passing it down to us, and we would have to do all of the handiwork, get our hands dirty. So when it came to really talking about things and really knowing how things work, a lot of the times they didn't understand, which is why I had a lot of the times I would work closely with engineers, which goes into that engineering technician, to get to understand the physical side, the hardware side versus what they're doing on the designing side. Even though they understand, they didn't physically work with the setting it or designing the circuit and building it out. So we would build out everything along with the schematics. So that was the biggest issue. And I guess that's why they actually made the engineering technician level, which is supposed to bridge that gap.
Okay, so you were like the glue between the two different entities. Did you see the engineering technicians look down on any of the technicians? So you already talked about how we had the engineers looking down on your engineering technicians. And even though obviously you guys were an integral part, were it not for you all, they would have had to have, as you said, gotten their hands dirty.
It all depends. There's been time I was like, when I was an engineer technician, I worked side. So you work with scientists as well. And those people who were engineer technicians doing research, and it could be highly classified, it could be anything that it was. If I was the person doing that, I wouldn't be doing that, but most of the engineering technicians did look down on the electronic technicians because the electronic technicians didn't normally do that. The electronic technician, depending on what level they were like set up in a tier of your help desk. So, you know, you had your tier one that was your entry level. He might have fixed all of the break fix things that were coming in and need to be fixed, or different parts, or there was something wrong with this. We need you to debug it and fix it and repair it. So he did more repairs. Then you had your level two that if that person didn't know how to do it, they send it up to the level two. The level two do their thing, and then you had level threes, and then it went up to the tiers, right? So engineering technician, a lot of the times they would be working, from what my experience, a lot of the time they were working at a higher level, and they could be working with the research people. And that might be engineers, that may be scientists. So a lot of them would, but that was because they were working on higher, thick projects than some of the guys that were working as electronic technicians.
What was the salary in general like? And I don't need any specific numbers, but if we
It
were
was
talking,
bad.
it was bad.
It was bad. When I started to when I was going to ITT Tech, they said, and it was booming back around that time. I think that was around 2006, and it was good until 2008. They were saying you could command about 16 and up. Okay. To me, 16 to $30 an hour was great, but rarely did you really see the person go up to a six-figure salary, and if you did, you would have to be moving up to an engineer level. So it was harder, which is why at the end we'll talk about why it's better to go into an engineering role. But the salary when I got out in 2008, oh man, I'm really, I have to say it, but I do not like saying it. The salary was $9 an hour. $10 an hour for an electronic technician. We're not even talking about electronic engineering technician, but that was the starting salary. And I was like, the fuck happened to the 16 to 20? And it really crashed because I got out in the recession point, but
Right.
It was at 15 to 20, stuff like that, but it wasn't really good. And the work and the workload as an electronic technician had to do, or technician in general, it was tremendous. Like there would be times that I was just back to back, and then I would be working over here, and then I'm going somewhere else and working in another, and then don't let me have experience doing other things, and I'm working with in the research area. I was everywhere. So the money that they were paying, which was very below average, and not even average. That's what do you call it? That's minimum wage.
Yeah.
So for the workload that they gave you, it wasn't worth doing. So yeah, the salary sucked. Now it has went up a little bit, but it's just not worth it to me doing to be an engineering technician or a technician period. In my opinion, those are to remind me of the computer technician jobs.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. So with all that said, how, and based on what you've already said, I think I already know what the answer is, but what were the people skill requirements? Meaning, how much did you actually have to interface with other individuals face to face? How much did you interface electronically? And again, obviously, this would vary from organization to organization, but based on your experiences, is this a kind of position where someone who's introverted would thrive? Is this the kind of experience where someone who's extroverted would thrive? Is this the kind of experience where someone needs to have a mellow temper, be able to handle just a whole bunch of stress? Or is this the kind where you can be laid back and really enjoy yourself?
Well, it all depends on which area you're working in. So if you're working in the manufacturing area where a lot of the times you see, and that's where I kind of worked at majority of the time, then you don't need to talk to people. You may interact with your supervisor, and you may talk to some other people about, maybe engineers, you might, but a lot of the times it's them giving you, your supervisor gave you something from an engineer and you have to build it or you either repair it. So if you're an introvert or somebody who doesn't like talking to people, that is an introvert, right? Then you don't need to have that. That may be perfect for you. You may love just being deep into the electronic components, and that's great. If you're working in, and a lot of the times nowadays, especially as a research person, which it could be the engineering technician side, if you're working in an area where there's labs and there's more research based, then yes, you need to be able to talk to people because you're going to be working in teams and groups, and there's going to be multiple people doing different parts that may go with your part. So you may be building this big machine for a medical device, and you're doing one part and they're doing one component, and you guys need to be able to talk to each other. So you need to have some group dynamics, and you need to know how to talk with people. You may not engage a lot with the client, but a lot of the times you will, because if something happened per se, like Deron goes and do a security assessment, you need to be able to talk with him and work things out and understand what's going on and be able to, level things out. But it all depends on what area you're going. And there's electronics everywhere, and you could be anywhere. You could be in the hospital. You can be financial sector. It doesn't matter. Like, you don't know. I don't know. A lot of people, they have these things that need to be repaired. So it doesn't have to mean that you're just working in manufacturing or a lab. You could be fixing printers. You know how to do electronic work. You can fix printers. You can do whatever. So it all depends on where you want to work and the different settings. So
What is the skill level that you feel is necessary? Meaning, is this the kind of job that someone would do with a high school degree? Is this something where you have to have a 2-year degree? Is this something where it's better if you have a 4-year degree? And I already know the answer to that part of it. I think our audience does as well, but I want to nail this down. Where in the spectrum of education generally do you find your engineering technicians?
you have to have some type of degree. You don't have to have an engineering degree to be a technician. Obviously, you can have an associate degree. Even though we talked about why it's not good to have one, but you can have an associate degree if you want to be an engineering technician. A lot of times you don't have it. You just have to understand the technical concepts, like Ohm's law and all these different theories and different formulas and different things you need to work out. I mean, you're going to use Ohm's law a lot, but you need to understand those concepts and understand how those things work in components, AC, DC. You need to understand those basic fundamentals. Now, you can pick that up by picking a book up and doing home things on your own, and you can learn it on your own. So you don't need a degree, but in order to get more advanced, especially going into the engineering technician role and being able to help with designs, you need to have that more advanced knowledge. Now, the better way to go is not, if you want to be an engineering technician, you could do that. But if you want to be an engineer and be able to do all of those things, it would be better to go a 4-year route and get an engineering degree. Okay. And as Deron had said before, it would have been better to go for an electrical engineering degree because you get all of those things. It's so broad. You get computers, computer science, a little bit in there. It's mixed in there. You get all of those things, electronics, you get electrical engineering, you get a little bit of mechanical, you get a lot of bit of everything in there. And it's the better route to go because you'll have a lot of routes that you can go off of that.
Right.
But if you settle for a subset or a specialization, then you're going to be stuck in that.
Right.
So I would say that if you guys want to be able to, do anything, then go for an electrical engineering degree. And I guarantee you'll still get that practical knowledge. You'll still be able to be an engineer. You don't have to fight from being an engineering technologist and then try to get a cert to become an engineer. Because if you go that route, you literally have to get a certificate to become an engineer. You even have to have a certificate to become a real technician if you want to be certified as a technician for certain companies. But most of them don't care. You can still become an engineer without actually getting any of that. But for a lot of places, you can't go without having it. You can't go to the UK without certificate to say you're an engineer. So it is best that you just go to a 4-year college, go under electrical engineering, and I promise you, all of those things that we're talking about is under there. So save yourself some money, save yourself the headache, save yourself the loans, to everything that I've already went through, and just go the 4-year route. It's not worth it. The bride, Nothing against you guys, DeVry, University of Phoenix, all of them can tell you, oh, we can get you in there and get you a job ahead of time. Trust me, when you get out of there, you ain't going to be making enough money. You're not going to be able to survive, especially in this economy, and you're going to be miserable. Go to a 4-year college. It'll be worth it.
Yeah, definitely agree. Definitely agree. Do not swallow the advertising swill from the universities about, oh, you'll make this and the average industry range is that. You're not going to make average when you come out of college. No one makes average when you come out of college. The average is for people in the middle of their career. You're going to be at the beginning. And, you know, even if they try to give you the beginning salary, it's still more likely than not off because of where you live.
Yeah. Now, I want to say this disclaimer. This is not about the teachers who taught at ITT Tech or any of these places. There's some great teaching. I learned some good stuff from there. But overall, it was not a traditional college. It was not an accredited college. And I couldn't, it was hard trying to transfer all my stuff over there, which is why I was supposed to be an engineer. I was supposed to go for engineering, but I settled for computer science because I wanted to do something with software or at least security. So it was better that route. And as long as it would have took me to get my engineering degree, it took less time to get my computer science degree. So I had to do some time and money. I didn't want to spend all of that money for that. So like I said, if I would have went the route that we're talking about now, it would have been less money. And it may have been a little bit more time, but I would have been a lot more happier than what I did with this engineering. And now I'm stuck with a big fat bill I can't get rid of.
Yeah. So to summarize, I'm going to ask you what sounds... Excuse me. So to summarize, I'm going to ask you what sounds like a simple question. But you know it's complicated. I know it's complicated. Would you recommend the average person who's interested in engineering, but in general, but doesn't know exactly where they want to fit, would you recommend them to get a job like this? Or would you tell them that if this is what they're interested in, they should go a different route, say the electrical engineering route, where they get that hardware and where they get software they can choose, or do some other branch of engineering, either as a degree or of course as a profession?
If you're long term, and then like I said, I'm going to say it's all what their goal is, but in the long term, if your long term is to be an engineer and you want to have that broad experience and to be able to do anything with your career and not be pigeonholed, then I'm going to tell you to go the engineering route. Take the 4 years, 5 years, whatever. It will literally be the best option for you. So that's what I'm going to say. It is not, like I said, I loved engineering technician. It was great, but it's, again, that job to me is a low tier job.
Yeah.
You're never going anywhere.
Yeah.
You're probably not even going to, like, you know how they have salary caps that you get to this cap, you can't go further than that. Once you get to your cap, you're done. You have to move up. And the only way up is to be an engineer and to move up from there. And they get more money for what they do and the research and different things. So I'm telling you guys, it is best to go the 4-year route and become an engineer or whatever you want to be. If it's an engineer or scientist, it's better than being a technician. But we need those technicians, don't get me wrong. But it's better than being that if your goal, long-term goal, is to get more money and do more things and enjoy your career. Trust me, you'll thank us later.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much. If y'all have any other questions, comments, concerns, if you want to maybe explore this a little more, please feel free to ask down in the comments. And as I think if you peruse through the comment sections, we do actually respond, and we do take time to give lengthy responses. Some might say overly verbose responses, but we're always.
And if you want to prick my brain on all the bad and crazy jobs I've had, and they were interesting, but it took me long enough to get to this point. But all you got to do is go fund me and get me a better trash bag paper, and I'll be happy to sit down and tell you my story. I don't like beer. I don't like none of that. And I barely like hugs. So yeah, do that. And we can definitely discuss more. But other than that, yes, please like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this. And there will be more in this series about different jobs we've had, because we've had a ton of them. And Deron and myself will be going back and forth. So if you like this, please let us know so we can continue, bringing you this content. Other than that, thank you guys. And this has been our time. I'm Roniel.
I'm Deron.
And to the next time.
Have fun.
Have fun.